Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley.
I'm Adam.
I'm Mika.
And the Tomb Raider movie is out. We've been waiting for this for a while. It hits theaters today. Well, technically it hit theaters last night, which is when we went and saw it. Mm-hmm. But its official release is today, so it's in theaters. We now have a new video game movie to see if finally is this one the chosen one.
Another Square Enix movie following in the wake of Hitman and...
We don't talk about those movies.
This is not on the level of Hitman.
No.
There are a lot. I ended up reading a bunch of reviews about this.
We'll talk.
And they're all over the place. Yeah. Most of them are comparing this to the Angelina Jolie era of Tomb Raider movies, and none of them seem to understand that or care, I guess, that this movie is based on the new trilogy of games that's Lara's origin story. Half the reviews are complaining that she's not badass enough yet.
It's like, well, she just started.
Right. So,
real goofy.
I think that the reviews between a lot of movie critics and what a lot of gamers are looking for in a movie like this are going to be widely divergent.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
I think that as someone who enjoyed growing up with the original Tomb Raider series and then saw the Angelina Jolie movies, was severely disappointed by them, and then played the new Tomb Raider game, and then saw this film, I thoroughly enjoyed the film. Not saying it was like the greatest film ever, it's going on my top 10 list, but I think that they did a really good job at adapting the story of the game to fit into a, how long is it, 2-hour film?
Yeah, 2 hours.
So they changed enough of the plot to make it a film, not a game. And there's a clear beginning, middle, and end. There's a villain and a plot.
118 minutes.
100.
So they 2 minutes shy.
2 minutes shy. So they concisely made it a 1 hour and 118 minute whatever story. And I thought that they did Lara well. I think that her character was great as she grew through the film. I thought that they had like some classic video game action sequences. It felt like it was a QuickTime event. I felt like I was playing a QuickTime event without a controller in my hand in some of the movie, which I want from a video game movie.
So, some of those sequences gave me just like hints of when Doom went first person in the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is straight up a video game.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to preface this by saying that this is definitely a video game movie.
Yes.
And if you're going into it for like a cinematic experience, you're probably going to be disappointed.
I agree with that.
It's not going to win an Oscar.
No.
But as far as an action flick, I don't think it's bad.
It's
not great. It's not going to win Oscars.
Right. I think it's an okay,
but it's an okay action flick.
It's an okay, like, predictable action flick. It's pretty predictable. But I think that everything that they you can tell what they went for, and everything they went for they nailed. Like,
yeah.
They had some references. The actors they all picked were all great. Like Tomb Raider, Lara, I was going to call her Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider was great.
Tomb Raider was awesome.
Lara Croft was great.
Yeah. Alicia Vikander plays Lara Croft.
Her very attractive man friend she meets along the way was very attractive.
Does her father,
Dominic West?
Does her real life father play her in movie father?
Like, you mean like John Voight did? Walter Goggins plays Maddie's Vogel, the antagonist. Daniel Wu plays Lu Ren, who helps along the way. And then there are a bunch of smaller roles. Kristen Scott Thomas, who I really love, plays Anna Miller, who's an associate of her father's, who's been looking after her since she was young. And I love Kristen Scott Thomas. Yeah. So she's great in just about anything. But it's a good cast.
Yeah. And I think they really put some backstory to Lara that we didn't even get in the games. We got a little bit more personable with her. I don't know. I felt like for a character that I've loved for so long, of part of my childhood and adult life, I felt it was nice to finally see her done well.
Yeah,
on the big screen.
It definitely felt like the first in the new trilogy of games. Like, it felt like this was her not coming of age, but like becoming the Tomb Raider. Mm-hmm. Like she wasn't like a weak little girl. She was like kind of a badass that like was very independent, but didn't really believe in herself. And then over this arc of the story, it like she became like a more of a real badass. I think that there was not in a lot of video game movies. You have moments where they're saying dialogue, and it's just like, this is really cringy. Yeah. And I'm just going to accept this.
I don't think it ever reached that point.
And it never really did. I felt like like I said, the writing wasn't like phenomenal, but it was all believable enough within the context of the story.
There's a little bit of over-explanation as far as just exposition by way of dialogue.
Yeah.
There is a bit of that happens, but none of it's unforgivable. None of it feels at the time like ridiculously hokey.
Yeah.
I don't know how well it will age. After we watched this Tomb Raider, I did go back and watch the original Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider. And it struck me very much, the two movies are products of their era of video games. The Angelina Jolie one is very much, here are my sweet guns and my sweet tits.
Yep.
And here are my gratuitous shower scenes.
There were so many shower scenes
Man,
in this film.
I haven't seen
she's
that
very
movie since I was like
Yes.
10. I gotta go back and watch that movie now.
It's fun. It's not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it was fun, and it was indicative of sort of what those games were doing at the time, where this movie is indicative of this new trilogy.
Right.
So this one is much grittier. You've got Lara getting the shit beat out of her left and right, either from the environment that she's in, just destroying her, or people trying to kill her, and that is very reflective of the game style as well. There's lots of just like grunting that, if you were just listening, could sound either way.
Yeah, and I thought that the game was so brutal and had a lot of violence and some visceral, stuff going on, and I'm really happy to see that they kept that in the movie. A really weird observation that I had was that for some reason in some games I feel like automatic and semi-automatic fire doesn't have as much impact as it really would. But for some reason, I don't know if it's the D-box seats that were behind us that added to it.
They were shaking.
But
Don't see this in D-box.
No, do not, please.
If you have a choice. We sat in D-box seats for 5 minutes.
And then
we had to move because it was not a good experience.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, but I just felt like the impact of the danger and the weaponry that everybody had, and the actual situations that Lara was put in felt dangerous. It didn't feel like she's Lara Croft, she'll get out of it. It's like, oh goodness, this is peril.
Yeah, couple of criticisms about it. For as far as the whole plot goes, there's only trouble because she made it. She got herself into this mess, and basically everything's her fault.
Yes.
And so if she puts it right, that's great. But also, it wouldn't have been fucked up if she didn't fuck it up.
Fair.
So that's a little bit annoying. The whole movie is just correcting. If you had just done the sensible thing, you get that occasional characters doing stupid things because otherwise there wouldn't be a movie. There is a little bit of that in some of her decision making, but overall, I thought that there was a pretty good. There's a pretty good pace. There are a lot of action sequences, a lot of them very close together. It does occasionally get bogged down just a tiny bit, because it'll go from these breakneck action sequences to these very quiet, very sedate, talky pieces, and sometimes that killed the momentum a little bit.
I honestly, this is not a knock against the movie, I don't think, but in the second act in the beginning, there was so much back-to-back, supposed to be over-the-top shit happening, I fell asleep. I woke up, but I did fall asleep a lot.
Really?
You fell asleep?
Just in the... I don't know why. I don't know if I was just really tired or bored. But, there was
There was so much action you got bored.
It was just all this shit's happening that I don't really care about. But then once the characters started talking and interacting, that's when it got more interesting for me.
See, that's opposite of me.
Interesting.
The second if they're climbing walls and jumping off waterfalls and in mortal peril, I'm in there.
I felt like there was more interest. The action in the second half of the movie, for me, had more impact than the first half. The first half was just kind of they were traveling, and there wasn't really important stuff. I don't know.
I mean, I think I feel you there, because even though I knew that this was her origin story, partway through the movie, I was like, can you just be the Tomb Raider already? Can we just get to that point where you have the guns and you're doing the killing? But I was like, no, Mika. Wait, it's gonna be satisfying when it does happen, but I think I felt the same. The traveling action was not as exciting for me as
if they had sped up the travel sequence.
I felt like a lot of those were in service of, let's see how much of video game throwback reference things we can get in here. Because there was stuff and this isn't too spoilery, but there's stuff that's very obvious that you see it and you're like, this is just a sequence in the video game. There's part where she's stealthing around the base and she's like...
Yeah, it was the video game.
And times when she's pulling out the bow and using a bow in times when it was not at all reasonable to use a bow, that sort of stuff. But those are the only things that really stood out to me as like a little bit over the top and hokey for the sake of like video game references.
I think my favorite video game reference, and I said this to you guys last night when we got out of the theater, that it kind of put me in the mindset of like watching a Tomb Raider movie, was this one part where she did the Lara Croft grapple across like a precarious ledge, and I was like, I've done that. I've done that with my hands on a controller, and I'm watching it in a film on a thing, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
I'm a gamer.
There's definitely a lot of like the rebooted Tomb Raider in this game.
They cover a lot of that. Not only some of the specific gameplay elements, but they go, here's the shipwreck, here's the island, here's the people on the island that want to kill you, and so on and so forth. And then eventually, of course, you also raid a tomb.
Yes.
Because otherwise it really wouldn't be a Tomb Raider movie. But they do cover off a lot of the similar set pieces that you find in the first game, or in the first reboot game, and there are a lot of gameplay elements that they try to reflect a little bit. They may have potentially gone overboard. I think they could have pulled back on some of that and just concentrated on being a great action movie, and it would have done better.
Yeah.
That said, I think Alicia Vikander is a great Lara.
Oh, so good.
She's tough physically. Apparently she put on 12 pounds of muscle for this role, and she is cut. She is very, very fit. I saw there have been some reviews that specifically criticize her for not being stacked enough. Which,
excuse me?
What do you mean stacked like boobs?
I mean like boobs.
Okay.
Oh my
because
goodness.
I'm going to find this, but it's, again, like product of the games of the time.
Right.
That the critics either don't pay attention to or don't care.
Right.
They're like, look, Angelina Jolie was stacked. She was a proper Tomb Raider.
Did they really say the word
Oh,
stacked?
no, they don't. I'm using the
Okay.
word. But it might actually be worse because they say she could be Luke instead of Lara, and it would be no different.
Ooh,
so
that's
I'm going to find the
real-
exact
That's not
quote.
okay.
Real bad. I don't know. The thing I'll say about this movie is that I didn't walk away from it and be like, that was a waste of my time. But
Yeah.
you know, it's fine. I probably would not see it again just because there's other movies to see. But I
That is
think
fair.
if you want to see a video game movie, at least for me, I think it's a totally fine movie to go see.
I think this is the best video game movie that I have seen.
I can't come up with a better example. Although I did like Timothy Olyphant's Hitman. I don't care what anyone says.
And
You
I
know
did
what?
like Advent
I
Children.
liked Timothy Olyphant's Hitman as well, but mostly because I really like Timothy Olyphant.
yeah, I think he
Right.
carried that movie.
And
for me.
I'll give him a lot of passes. So here's this quote from this
God.
review that I feel encapsulates where a lot of the critics are measuring
Cup
this
size.
movie. Vikander's appearance is also markedly different than Jolie's. She never comes across as having an ounce of sex appeal, and at times looks like she could be 16. Tossing the lack of curves, and Warner Brothers could have decided to gender bend and make a film titled Luke Croft, and it would have come across the same way. They would not have had to change the script at all. Such interchangeability is not exactly empowering for women.
What? So sorry, we didn't over-sexualize the character. Definitely not empowering for women. God damn. What a fucking tone-deaf article that is.
Holy shit. That's the worst thing I've heard.
I'm gonna say I disagree with that.
I'm going to say I wholeheartedly disagree with that.
She's not a badass yet in this movie. If you're expecting the Lara with the guns, you're not gonna get it. This is very much based on the games that
Lara
we
with
are
a bow.
playing now, and
And
so
to me, that Lara was empowering as hell. Like, she kicked ass, and she wasn't even, like, Lara with the guns yet.
And what I liked about her is she did what she had to, but at no point did she feel callous. If she took a life, she was traumatized by that. But
Oh, yeah.
she did it because it was her or them.
And I think that just even the opening scene, they really paint her as, like, this girl handles herself, she's independent, and she's a growing human being. And I think that that's what makes her such an awesome, empowering person. Not her tits.
Yep.
Not her tits.
But she is fit as hell.
She's fit as hell. Oh my god, she's cut.
Which I do think is amazing.
She's a
So, overall, fun movie. It was fun to watch. It's not a perfect movie.
Nope.
I don't feel like this embarrasses video game movies in any way, like a lot of
Assassin's
video
Creed.
game movie adaptations do. So, You got that going for you. maybe the best video game movie yet.
Definitely in the pantheon of video game movies. It's looking pretty good.
I think that if people are saying, does this break the curse? In my opinion, the curse has been broken. I don't think that... I mean, maybe someone wants an Oscar-winning video game movie film to break the curse, but for me, as in I didn't want to drink myself to death during it, it breaks my personal curse.
Fair enough. For me, I think that once I can say that it's a good movie and not just a good video game movie,
okay,
that's the line I want to cross. But I still think it's a good video game movie.
We all have our own curse breakers.
So, if you had to do it again, would you watch it? Would you wait until it came out on Netflix or video on demand or something like that so you could just rent it, or skip it entirely?
I would be fine watching this on Netflix.
I'd probably see it in the theater again.
I
like the set pieces, and the action is always fun to see on a big screen. I don't think it's that you would miss out too much if you decide to wait, but I like it as a theater experience.
I don't think I would go see it again alone. I'd probably want to go see it with friends so we can all enjoy it together, but I'd go see it again.
It's definitely an action movie, so if you like the theater experience for action movies, then I understand your point of view.
Yeah. All right, great. So that is our thoughts on the new Tomb Raider movie. If you're making a decision about whether you want to go see it, that's how we feel about it. And your mileage, of course, may vary. But let us know if this helped you make a decision. Or if you've seen the movie, let us know what you think of it. We tried to keep this relatively spoiler-free so you can go in and have a lot of the excitement and the discovery when you do watch it. But let us know what you thought. Keep it spoiler-free in the comments, please. And for all of the other video game movies that come out, or come on, we're coming into Marvel season as well. We'll see a bunch of those, talk about them. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the Know.
What are you doing here, Laura? 7 years I've been on this island. Your father, he put me here. Now I see the likeness, intelligence, the recklessness.